Hello children, in this video we will discuss what are the events occur after the fertilization. The fusion of male and female gamete to produce a zygote is known as fertilization. Now after fertilization, how a small child develops, how an animal organism develops into the womb, into the uterus of a female, that we'll discuss in this topic. As we all aware, bache, the fertilization occurs here, that is on the ampulla isthmus junction of fallopian tube. So if someone asks us, that we will discuss in our previous videos as well, what is the site of fertilization? Ampulla, the part of fallopian tube. In class 10th, you can write only the fallopian tube, that would be also considered as correct answer. So site of fertilization is fallopian tube, which is also known as oviduct. But if you go more precisely, then the site is ampulla. Ampulla isthmus junction of fallopian tube is the site of fertilization, where fusion of male and female gamete takes place, resulting in the production of zygote. After the formation of zygote, the 2 days after its formation, the cleavage starts, and this zygote divides into two blastomeres. This process, this rapid cell division of zygote is known as cleavage. This division is mitotic division. This division takes place so that the multicellular structure by that zygote can be achieved. As we all are aware, bache, every multicellular complex organism is formed from a single cell, and that single cell is known as zygote. So this rapid mitotic division of zygote is known as cleavage. Then on the third day, another division takes place, and a 4-cell structure is formed. The 4 blastomeres are formed. After that, the cell division occurs much more rapidly than this, and a 16-cell stage is formed, that is known as morula. The 16-cell stage of embryo is referred as morula. After this, a blastocyst is formed. The number of cells increases exponentially, and there is a cavity generated in between, and that is known as a blastocyst. This blastocyst then will penetrate itself into this wall. And this process is known as implantation. What is implantation, beta? The fixing or the embedment. Embedment means dasna. The embedment of blastocyst, or you can say the embryo. In 10th class it is, broadly termed as embryo, into the uterine wall. This is the uterine wall. In the uterine wall, this blastocyst or embryo will get embedded for further development, and this process is known as implantation. What is it, bache? Embedding of an embryo into the uterine wall for further development is known as implantation. After implantation, the cell division keeps on continuing. The developing of various germ layers takes place. Then after that, the step which will occur, that is the formation of germ layers. One thing which will remain continuous in these processes, that is the rapid mitotic division. the cell division keeps on continuing. So after this, formation of germ layers will take place. 3 germ layers will be there: ectoderm, endoderm, the innermost, and the middle one is mesoderm. You can write them as ecto, meso, and endoderm as well, the fixed sequence. Ecto is the outermost germ layer, meso is the middle one, and endo is the innermost layer. These layers will specific for their specific organs. हर एक germ layer अपना अपना एक specific organ develop करेगी during the fetus development. Embryo will be developed into a fetus. F-O-E-T-U-S, fetus बच्चे. A more developed stage of a young one. Then बच्चे, after the formation of germ layers, formation of organ takes place. Like in the 4th week after fertilization, the heart will starts to pump. Heart is seen as a tube that can be easily seen in an ultrasound. The organs will start to develop. On the 9th week, the hands and the legs will start to appear properly. So that is the organ development. That's a part of it. In your higher classes, in your class 12 syllabus, you will study these parts as well in complete detail. So here, just a faint idea of it. That is, there are 3 germ layers which will give rise to the formation of fetus, and those 3 germ layers are ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. After these germ layers, bache, a fetus is developed, and that fetus is connected to the mother by a cord-like structure, by a disc-like structure that is known as placenta. A very, very important question or topic for your board exams. What is placenta? Placenta is a intimate connection between fetus, that is the developing baby, and the mother. ये एक intimate connection है बच्चे between the fetus, the growing baby, and the mother, उसके बीच में. How it looks, its shape is just like a disc. So it is a disc-like structure. It has numerous microvilli present in the wall of it, which helps in the transportation and absorption of materials from one part to another. So that is the structure of placenta. It is a disc-like structure and is an intimate connection between a fetus and the mother. Then, what functions it serves? Placenta plays very important role in the development of fetus. First, placenta provide nutrition. Placenta is connected to the fetus by the help of a cord. That cord is known as umbilical cord. That cord is referred as umbilical cord. एक बड़ी पाइप जैसी स्ट्रक्चर होती है बच्चे, जो एक डेवलपिंग बेबी के belly region में कनेक्टेड होती है from the mother. That is generated from the uterine wall. So that cord, that wire-like structure is referred as umbilical cord. And through this umbilical cord, the placenta provides nutrients to the fetus. Why it requires nutrients, beta? As we, discussed, that cell division keeps on continuing. So cell division requires a large amount of energy. And for the production of energy, we require nutrients. So, which structure provides nutrients to the fetus? Placenta. The second function is respiration. The availability of gases, that is oxygen, to the fetus is provided by placenta. Availability of O2 for breakdown of food, for oxidation of food, that is also be transported by the help of placenta. Third, excretion. As bache, fetus is also made of cells, and cells perform metabolic activities, After the metabolic activities, certain wastes are produced. मेटाबॉलिक एक्टिविटीज जब कर रही है बच्चे सेल, जब सेल डिवीजन कर रही है तो उसके बाद कुछ वेस्ट भी जनरेट करेगी, एंड दोज वेस्ट्स नीड टू बी रिमूव्ड, एंड दोज वेस्ट मटेरियल्स आर कैरीड आउट ऑफ द fetus by placenta. You can write these three functions in one part as well, and that will be referred as the transportation. These three will comes in transportation. Basically, placenta is transporting these three. So that is the function of placenta. Second, or you can say the fourth, placenta performs the function of storage. It stores glycogen, the reserve food of animal, and fats in it. Why? For the emergency conditions, bache. If a mother didn't get a food for 1 or 2 days, the fetus didn't die. Why? Because placenta already stores the enough food to give that to the fetus. In any uncertain conditions, bache, if mother is not eating well during its fetal development or during its pregnancy, then the placenta has that stored glycogen and fat which gives the energy to the fetus in certain unfavorable conditions, so that fetus will keep on developing at its own pace. Next thing, bache, protection. Placenta provide or transport antibodies from mother to the fetus, and these antibodies we have discussed in our class 9th, bache, that these antibodies are required for our immune system. They provide us immunity, they provide us ability to fight against the pathogens. So these are the functions performed by placenta. Along with these, placenta also performs an endocrine function. Placenta transports certain hormones from mother to the fetus for the parturition. After this development, bache, complete development, the next step will be parturition. What is parturition? Expelling out of the baby, expelling out of the young one. Through vagina or birth canal is known as parturition. Whensoever fetal development is completed, the child will come out of the female reproductive tract, female uterus, through birth canal, which is referred as vagina. That is known as parturition or childbirth. In our usual conversation, we use this term as a delivery. We usually say a child delivers in a hospital. What do you mean by delivery? That is the parturition in the biological terms. Expulsion out of a child, a completely developed baby from a fetus, out of the female vagina is known as parturition. After parturition, a process starts in the female that is known as lactation. The production of milk in the mammary glands is known as lactation. That only starts after the parturition, after the childbirth. So these are the events which occur after fertilization. Out of these events, the placenta, its function, a very important question, parturition and implantation. These three are the part of your class 10 syllabus. Rest all you can leave if you want to. So that is the events which occur after fertilization. Now we will discuss what will happen if fertilization not takes place. If the mature egg do not get the sperm, then what will happen in the female uterus? Bache, whensoever an egg is released, what happens? The uterine wall becomes thick. This inside the uterine wall, that is the endometrium, the innermost layer, will thickened enough. This thickened endometrium along with the dead ovum. After the release of ovum, ovum will remain active for 48 hours only. And after the 48 hours, that ovum is dead. Then this thick endometrium, if fertilization not takes place, along with this dead ovum and the blood vessels, will shred off and comes out through vagina. This is known as menstruation. So, if fertilization not takes place, then the female body will undergo menstruation. What is menstruation? It is a 28-day cycle which occurs in a female when fertilization of egg or ovum does not take place. This cycle repeats in a female on an average after 28 days. This cycle has 4 phases. The first phase is known as menstrual phase. This phase lasts for 3 to 5 days of menstrual cycle. In this phase, the endometrium, the thickened endometrium, the blood vessels, the blood and the dead ovum will comes out of the female uterus, will come out of the female reproductive tract through vagina, and that is known as menstrual phase or menstrual flow. The second is follicular phase. In this phase, the FSH, that is follicle stimulating hormone, is released in excess, is released in large amount, and that will initiate the maturation of a new Graafian follicle in the female ovaries. और बच्चे ये स्टार्ट करेगा ओवरीज में एक नए ओवम को मैच्योर करना. As we have discussed, बच्चे, the premature ova are already present in the female body in the ovaries. Those premature ova will start to mature, and that phase is known as a follicular phase. This phase lasts for 6 to 13 days of menstrual cycle or menstruation. Then, bache, the third phase is ovulatory phase. The release of ovum, the release of mature ovum or egg from the Graafian follicle into the female reproductive tract in fallopian tube part is known as ovulation. A very important one mark question, bache. What is ovulation? The release of ovum from the Graafian follicle into the fallopian tube is known as ovulation. This ovulation takes place on the 14th day of menstruation. And the last phase is luteal phase. The remaining part of the Graafian follicle will start to degenerate and the formation of corpus luteum takes place. This corpus luteum releases a hormone in excess. That hormone is known as progesterone, and that progesterone controls the degeneration of corpus luteum. If fertilization takes place, then progesterone secretion is reduced and corpus luteum will stay there. But if fertilization does not take place, then corpus luteum will be degenerated and forms corpus albicans, and that will mark the beginning of menstrual phase. This phase will last from 15 to 28 days. That will be the luteal phase. that is for approximately 14 or 15 days in the female body. So that is the menstrual cycle, menstrual flow, which occurs in female if fertilization of ovum or egg with the sperm does not takes place. Next, bache, there are two terms very important for your class exam, for your board exam. The first one is menarche. Menarche is formed from two words. First is menses, that means a month, and arch means beginning. What is menarche, bache? The beginning of menstrual cycle or menstruation at the age of 12 to 13 years in a female, that is the age of puberty in female, is known as menarche. What is menarche, bache? The beginning of menstruation or menstrual flow at the age of 12 or 13 years in a female, that is the age of puberty, is known as menarche. It starts at the age of 12 to 13 years. The next term is menopause. Meno means, menses means month, and pause means stop. The stoppage of menstruation at the age of 45 to 50 years in a female is known as menopause. After 45 to 50 years, the menstrual cycle stops in a female, and that is known as menopause. These two terms are very important for your board exam, so do remember these terms very carefully. What is menopause? The stoppage of menstruation. And what is menarche? The beginning of menstruation. The menarche will start at the age of 12 to 13 years in a female, and the age of menopause is 45 to 50 years in a female. So that is the menstrual cycle, or the answer of the question: what will happen if egg is not fertilized?